show brought just for you. Yes, I go live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock because Sunday is the first day of the week and I am at work. All right, does that make sense? Hopefully, over time and after this message, it may make perfect sense why I now keep Torah. Yes, yes. So anyway, how have you been? How's your week been so far? How's my lighting, by the way? Is it good? What is it? What's going on? Let's make this a little better. Does that make it a little better? Okay, close up and personal. There's a lot of light in here. So anyway, I am coming to tell you something that I've been learning and I want to share with you. And I'm all dressed up because we are honoring a queen today. Yes, we are. So in honor of the queen, I blinged up a little bit. Wasn't that sweet of me? Yeah, it was just because I really thought it was appropriate to be a little dressed up today because I'm telling you a royal story, right? About Queen Esther. I don't know if you know your Old Testament very well, but Queen Esther saved her people. Yep, she sure did. She saved her people from death. And that's why I think this story is so important to be told, and why I think that it is so important that we learn to keep the feast days, the days that were set for us many, many moons ago through the Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, now Israel. These stories were set, and the scripture says to teach these stories to your children. Yes. And so I think that if the church has been remiss, hugely wrong, is not bringing us the stories from the Torah in the sense that we are still actively part of the Old Testament. Yes, the New Testament, New Covenant, that's a whole deep dive. I like Holy Impact Ministries. That's one of my best sources to get information about what we should be knowing in the 21st century. And it's really actually, I'm not going to lie, I really think this is a matter of life and death. I take this very seriously. And the reason why I say this is a matter of life and death, because Father says, my people suffer for lack of knowledge, right? So I think that that's why a lot of the stuff that's going on, a lot of the pain that people are feeling, a lot of the anxiety that people are feeling is because we have lack of knowledge. And so with that, there's lack of knowledge, there's lack of wisdom, there's lack of direction. There's a lot of things that are lacking when we don't know the full Bible, the full testaments, right? All the books, right? And then truly, the Bible says if they were to put every single story in the Bible, there would not be room enough for all the books. They would fill the earth. So we have our Bible. It's a primer in a sense. It gives you information and knowledge that you need to carry forward, to study, to find out more, to know. One of the most important things is to know the historical perspective. So just let me give you a little bit about why we're here this morning and why I'm so excited to be talking about our queen, Esther, our ancestor, Esther. Now remember this, either you were born a Jew or you were born a Gentile. You get that? Either born a Jew or you're born a Gentile. It doesn't matter. You're still, if you accept Jesus Christ in the Greek, Yeshua HaMashiach as your Lord and Savior, you are commanded to do as he did and to study, show yourself approved, and to keep the holy scriptures. He did not come to change the law. Our Messiah came to fulfill the law. So you know what? This is a midlife story. Let me tell you why. Because in the middle of her life, Queen Esther was called to do something that she could never, in her wildest imagination, think that she would ever be called to do. This woman entered a beauty pageant. Yeah, she entered a beauty pageant. And because she entered a beauty pageant, she was able to be the queen, because the pageant was held because the previous queen, which I used to have a dog named Vashti. I'll tell you that in a second. But Vashti was out the picture, and the king needed a new queen. So he searched the land through a beauty contest, or if you will, whatever it was called back then, and she won, and she became queen. But one of the things that she did, she did not tell the king that she was a Jew. She was hiding it. Now, I'm trying to get to the scenario back then, what was going on. It was a lot of chaos going on. There was a lot of stuff going on. The king, he was an alcoholic. He was a drunk. And that's how Vashti lost her queendom, was because in the drunken party, he wanted to come and do some things that she wasn't comfortable doing in front of all these people. He wanted to parade his beautiful wife around, the queen, and she refused, so out she went. It could be that simple, ladies. You can be out the door that simply. But anyway, so the new queen is the one that we're celebrating right now, who's gone down in history as a woman to be celebrated. So the actual feast is Purim, and it starts on the second and the third. So, and how it's typically celebrated is through festivities. Again, that's why I'm all dressed up, because it's a festive time and I wanted to look nice. So what I'm going to do is if you have 9 minutes to spare right now with me, which I think you do, that's why you're here, I want to share with you a quick story about Esther. It's only 9 minutes. Can we watch it together? Okay, are you ready?
The story is set over 100 years after the Babylonian exile of the Israelites from their land. And while some Jews did return to Jerusalem, remember Ezra and Nehemiah, many did not. And so the book of Esther is about a Jewish community living in Susa, the capital city of the ancient Persian Empire. And the main characters in this story are two Jews, Mordecai and then his niece Esther. And then there's the king of Persia, who's something of a drunken pushover in this story. And then there's the Persian official Haman, the cunning villain. Now, this is a curious book in the Bible, mainly for the fact that God is never even mentioned, not once, which might strike you as kind of odd. I mean, isn't the Bible about God? But this is a brilliant technique by the author, who's anonymous, by the way. It's an invitation to read this story looking for God's activity, and there are signs of it everywhere. The story is full of very odd, quote, coincidences and ironic reversals, and it all forces you to see God's purpose at work, but behind the scenes.
Yes.
Let's just dive into the story. The book opens with the king of Persia throwing two elaborate banquet feasts that last a total of 187 days. And it's all for the grandiose purpose of displaying his greatness and splendor. On the last day of the banquet feast, he's really drunk, and he demands that his wife, Queen Vashti, appear at the party to show off her beauty. She refuses. And so, in a drunken rage, the king deposes Vashti and makes the silly decree that all Persian men should now be the masters of their own homes. Then he holds a beauty pageant because he wants to find a new queen. This is like a really bad soap opera. But it's right here that we're introduced to Esther and Mordecai. Esther hides her Jewish identity and enters the beauty pageant and wins. And the king is so obsessed with Esther that he elevates her to become the new queen of Persia.
See that, y'all?
After this, and even more serendipitous, is the fact that Mordecai just happens to overhear two royal guards plotting to murder the king. And so he informs Esther, who in turn informs the king, and Mordecai gets credit for saving the king's life. Now, right here from the beginning, God's not mentioned anywhere, but this all seems providentially ordered.
I'm going to pause this right here. So Mordecai adopted his niece, cousin niece, not clear, but Mordecai adopted Esther and raised her as his own. Wasn't that beautiful? So there's an adoption story here as well. And so he raised her as they are the Jewish people that are now living their best life after being in captivity. They're out, they're scattered. And so this is basically what happened. So Mordecai, for you men out there, he also was in the right place at the right time for the right reason. And we'll continue.
What is it that God's up to? You have to keep reading. We're next introduced to Haman, who's not actually a Persian. He's called an Agagite. He's a descendant of the ancient Canaanites. Remember 1 Samuel chapter 15. The king elevates Haman to the highest position in the kingdom, and he demands that everybody kneel before Haman. Well, when Mordecai sees Haman, he refuses to kneel, which of course fills Haman with rage. And when he finds out that Mordecai's Jewish, Haman Haman successfully persuades the
Devil
king
biz.
to enact this crazy decree to destroy all of the Jewish people. And to decide the date of the Jews' annihilation, Haman rolls the dice. A die is called Purim in Hebrew. Tuck that away for later. 11 months later, on the 13th of Adar, all the Jews will die. Haman and the king then have a drinking banquet to celebrate their really horrible decision. So the focus now turns to Mordecai and Esther, who are the only hope for the Jewish people.
Can you guys hear
They
this?
make a plan
Can you put a
that
one in the
Esther's
chat
going
if
to
you can hear
reveal
this?
her Jewish identity to the king and ask him to reverse the decree. But approaching the king without a royal request is, according to Persian law, an act worthy of death. So in a key statement, Mordecai, he's confident that even if Esther remains silent, that deliverance for the Jews will arrive from another place. And then Mordecai wonders aloud. He says, who knows? Maybe you've become queen for this very moment.
She did.
Esther responds.
She did. This is what this whole
to go to the king with her
message
amazing
is
words,
about
if I
for you
perish,
today.
I perish. Now, in what unfolds,
Her
we
famous
watch
words,
the
if I
ironic
perish, I
reversal
perish,
of
because she's
all
doing
of
something
Haman's
out of her
evil
comfort
plans.
zone.
So Esther hosts the king and Haman at a first banquet, and she says that she wants to make a special request of both of them at an exclusive banquet the following day. So Haman leaves the banquet totally drunk, and he sees Mordecai in the street. He fumes with anger, and he orders that a tall stake be built so that Mordecai can be impaled upon it in the morning. It seems like things can't get any worse for the Jews and for Mordecai. But all of a
Have you
sudden,
ever felt that way
the
in
story
life?
pivots. It just so happens that night, the king, he can't sleep, and he has the royal chronicles read to him for good bedtime reading, and he just happens to hear about how Mordecai had saved the king's life. He had totally forgotten.
Divine
So in the
provision.
morning, Haman enters to request Mordecai's execution, and the king in that moment orders Haman to honor Mordecai publicly for saving his life.
See
So
how
now
the
Haman
stories are
has to lead
converging?
Mordecai around the city on a royal horse, telling everyone to praise him. Now this moment in the story, it's a pivot for the whole book. It begins Haman's downfall and Mordecai's rise to power. Watch how this works. The day after is Esther's second banquet. So the king and Haman arrive, and Esther informs the king that first of all, she's Jewish, and second, that Haman has enacted a decree to murder her, and to murder Mordecai, who saved his life, and to murder all of the Jews. Now, the king's had a lot to drink, so when he hears this news, he goes into yet one more drunken rage, and he orders that Haman be impaled on the very stake he made for Mordecai. It's ironic and a grisly way for Haman to go. Haman's execution, however, doesn't solve the problem of the decree to kill all of the Jews.
Bye,
So the focus
Marion.
now
Thanks for
turns
tuning
to
in.
Esther
Can you like and
Mordecai
subscribe
as
and
they
come
make
back?
a plan to reverse the
Watch the
decree.
replay.
They discover that the king can't revoke a decree that he's already made. So instead, the king commissions Mordecai to issue a counter decree. On the appointed day that all of the Jews were supposed to be
Bye-bye.
killed, the 13th of Adar, now the Jews are ordered to defend themselves and to destroy any who plotted to kill them. Then Mordecai, Esther, and Jews everywhere hold banquets and feasts to celebrate this new decree, and Mordecai is elevated to a seat beside the king. Eventually, the decreed day comes, and the Jews triumph over their enemies. First, they destroy Haman's family, and then any other Persian officials who had joined in Haman's plot. And then on a second day, they get permission to destroy any who plotted against them throughout the entire kingdom. This results in joy and
I want to pause for a second. You know, there's a saying in the Bible that says, I will make your enemies your footstool. Sometimes, you guys, when things look at their bleakest, sometimes when you feel like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know how I'm going to get my family out of this. I just don't know where to turn. But behind the scenes, if you are faithful to our Father, and He's always faithful to you, things are turning around in your favor, and you don't even recognize it until the completion of the story. So that's why one of the reasons why the story is so important to your midlife, because it could be your story in terms of you need favor from God. You're not sure what to do. You come up with all these bright ideas, and you just keep plowing forward and doing your personal best, and the outcome could be just the way God planned it.
celebration as the Jews are rescued from annihilation. The
The
story
Jews are
then tells about how
rescued from
Esther and
annihilation.
Mordecai established by decree this annual 2-day feast of Purim to commemorate their deliverance from destruction. And the name of the feast comes from Haman's dice. Remember? Purim. The book concludes with a short epilogue as Mordecai is elevated to second in command in the kingdom, and we are told now of his royal greatness and splendor as the Jews thrive in exile. Now, step back. Notice how this whole story has been designed. The story was full of moments of ironic reversal, but we can now see the whole story is structured as an ironic reversal, right down to the details. So the king's splendor and feasts and decrees are mirrored by Mordecai's splendor and feasts and decrees at the end. Esther and Mordecai, they first saved the king, but now in the end they save all of the Jews. Then you have Haman's elevation and edicts and banquet that gets reversed by Mordecai's elevation and edict and banquet. And then at the center you have Esther and Mordecai's planning scenes, and then Esther's two banquets that act as a frame around the greatest moment of reversal in the whole story: Haman's humiliation and Mordecai's exaltation. Beautiful. Another fascinating feature of this book is the moral ambiguity of the characters. There's a lot of drinking and anger and sex and murder, of which Mordecai and Esther are a part. Not to mention their violation of many commands in the Torah, like marrying Gentiles or eating impure foods. And so the story's not putting Mordecai and Esther forward as moral examples, as if it endorses all of their behavior, but they are put forward as models of trust and hope when things get really bad.
There you go.
The book of Esther comes back to that question with which we began: why God is not mentioned. The message of this book seems to be that
So that's enough. I just wanted you to hear the story, and we'll talk about it now. So the beautiful thing about the story, in my humble opinion, is that they were just ordinary people who became extraordinary by doing something that they saw a need. They saw a need, they stepped up to the plate, and they did what they felt the right thing to do. And because they did that, they saved a whole tribe. They saved their people, right? The whole sect that was with them, because of the fact that they had courage. If I could wish anything for anybody watching this live, is to be courageous, to find that courage wherever you can find it, and to take action when it may not even make sense in the moment, but if it's in your spirit and your heart to do, and you've prayed about it. Because remember, Esther did call a fast. She did call a fast because she wasn't clear. And that's another thing that brings me to the point where when I'm not clear sometimes, I have called a fast for myself. And I often went and I still fast, but I haven't fasted in a long time. But I often fast from a Wednesday, because that's Bible study, and then over the weekend break the fast when I'm in church, so that I can hear from the Lord through the preacher, the pastor. Yes, that was kind of my MO, because some things you just need more clarity, and you need more time with the Father to get that clarity. And so that's what Esther did at the beginning. She called a fast, and she was able to get direction, clarity, and she moved forward. So there you go. Isn't that an amazing story? So here's what it is. So because of the way the Hebrew calendar is designed, Purim this year is going to be Monday, the second and the third. So it's this on the second at sundown until the third sundown. That's actually the Feast of Purim. So I don't really have anybody to celebrate it with, because unfortunately I'm sort of one of the few people in my family and a few people in my circle that have elevated to the point where we should be actually following the Old Testament. So many people balk at that. They're just like, well, I follow the Old Testament, that's old. Well, you can't have the old without the new. You cannot throw out the old and walk through the new, because then you don't have a clear understanding, right? There's something very, very much missing in what you need to carry forth the new. And I think that's where a lot of saints are being thrown off, because they don't understand the connection between the Old Testament and the New Testament. They also make this kind of odd statement about Yeshua nailing the law on the cross, which is not true. He nailed the penalty of the sin on the cross, so that even though you sin, you still can enter into the kingdom of heaven, as long as you repent, turn away, and do the things that God called you to do. That was the beauty of the story. Like the gentleman said, let me give you credit for that too. Like the gentleman said, he said, look, their story is not one of perfection. Their story is not one of being perfect people. Their story was one of being obedient, walking in line with what you are called to do, and be present in the moment, so that you can hear from the Lord obey and watch what miracle you are part of. Because really, she became part of a miracle. She didn't wake up one morning and say, I'll be part of a miracle. That ain't how that happened. She woke up that morning in the role that she was presented with and walked it out so beautifully, so wonderfully, so awesomely that now we're reading about her, what, 2,500 or so years later. But I'm telling you, that can be you. You don't think so? Oh, I think so. I think so. I think you could do something right where you're sitting in your community, in your midlife, that can turn the tide for a greater purpose. Honestly, I feel like there's something, I just feel this way because I don't think you tuned in by happenstance. So there's something that I think that you are supposed to do. You might not have heard the word. You might have already known that's what it is for to turn something around in your community, for your people. There's something because I don't know. I just feel that way. I feel like I have something to do too. And actually, what I feel like is that I'm to bring my church family into the truth of the biblical feast days and the day that we actually celebrate the Sabbath and all that good stuff. Because the biggest pushback that I'm getting through all of this is through my church people. They just don't want to believe it. They just don't want to accept the fact that they've been sitting in the wrong pew for all these years, listening to the wrong man, because he listened to the wrong man who listened to the wrong man who listened to the wrong man. You know how far this goes back? Yeah, a lot of ridiculousness. But like my pastor, Scott Villain at Holy Impact Ministries, yeah, his mom came to him actually and said, son, you've got this all wrong. You're a pastor on a Sunday church. You're supposed to be doing this on the Sabbath, which is Saturday. And so fortunately, he heard from his mom. He heard his mom. Remember, I think women, we are prophets over our children. So he heard from his mom and flipped the script. And that's so important in these days, is to hear the truth and flip the script before it becomes a problematic for you, right? But anyway, let me give you credit for this video too. It's Book of Esther Summary, a complete animated overview by the Bible Project. It already has 4,575,000 views. So I turned you on something good, right? Didn't I? You can thank me later. But anyway, yes, I found that this morning in my prayer time and study time, asking the Lord what to bring you, what message to bring you. Also, I wrote something down for you. It says, and this is, I think, this is also, I found it this morning when I was studying, getting ready for this morning. And even to your old age. Okay, now midlife, what, 35 to 65 or something, somewhere around there, in developed countries, maybe 35 to 60, but anyway, somewhere around there. And it's, you're young as you feel, so you might be 70 and feel like you're still in your midlife. I ain't mad at you. But anyway, and so listen to this. And even to your old age, I am he. And even to hoar hairs, that's gray. Oh, I got that. I got all over actually, but I colored it. Anyway, but I didn't color all of it because I like the gray showing out. Okay, so let me start all over and not interrupt myself, because you probably want to hear this straight through without my commentary right in the middle of it. That's crazy. Okay, and even to your old age, I am he. And even to hoar hairs will I carry you. I have made and I will bear. Even I will carry and I will deliver you. Isaiah 46:4. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? So I say, this is me, build upon your strengths, overcome your weaknesses, and then you will have you have righteousness. So Proverbs 3:32 is where I got that from. And may he bless the habitations of the just. So may he bless your home. I wrote this in April of 2024. That's how old this piece of paper is. I wrote that, but I came across and I was studying. I was like, wow, that's so important for today's word and message. Yes, and let me show you a little secret about me. I'll show you this picture. So this picture right here, speaking of doing what you're supposed to be doing, can you see that while I'm all dressed up? I am dressed up because when I was in undergraduate school at the University of Cincinnati, I decided to run for homecoming queen. Why? Because I'm in a school that historically has not denied a lot, has not granted a lot of access to African Americans, and our numbers were not that large. And when I was in law school, they really shrunk. However, I hope it's gotten better. I haven't kept track much about what's going on at the school, but so I ran on the campaign. I'd like to be your first Black homecoming queen. And previously, The homecoming queens courts were separate. The blacks had their own homecoming queen, and then the whites had theirs. But I wanted to bridge the gap. I wanted to bridge the gap for the homecoming queen because we're all in the same school. Why do we have two different ones? I don't know. I don't even know why I started. I didn't even inquire, I don't think. But anyway, so I ran for homecoming queen. And I made the court, y'all. I made the court. And then the next year, a black girl won as the first black homecoming queen of the University of Cincinnati. Isn't that beautiful? She won because why? Because I saw something that I thought needed to be changed about things, way things were going at the school. I didn't like the division, so I did something about it. And I don't know why, I just popped in my head to do it, and I did it. And I hope that that's kind of you too. I hope that when things come to your mind, you do it. And if it's for the right reason, yes, I believe if it's the right reason, at the right time, things will begin to align for you to do what it is you were called in that moment. Just like Esther. Esther was just some beautiful woman, extraordinarily beautiful, that found herself in the king's palace rather. Isn't that beautiful? That could be you. You could do something today and land you in a place you never dreamed of. Why? Because you took action. You came up with an idea. Hopefully it was from the Lord. Whatever it was, he blessed you. And just like he said, these are a bunch of drunks. These are a bunch of crazy people. However, God's people was in the midst of all of this. And what did he do? He blessed his people. In the midst of all the madness, he still blessed his people. Which brings me to the United States of America, where this is being filmed. A lot of crazy stuff going on, y'all. A lot of stuff we don't understand. A lot of stuff we may never understand, but it's okay. Don't lose hope. Don't lose your faith. And remember, you might be called in this season to do something miraculous, marvelous, that will be bookmarked and historically referenced, later in life. You don't know, but I can tell you what won't happen. Nothing will happen, rather, I should say, or that won't happen. How am I saying this? Y'all help me. I'm getting stumbling over my words a little bit. If you don't do it, we will never find out, for sure. But if you do it, we might find out, and we may be really honoring you and recognizing you for your courage. So is there something on your mind right now that you feel like you should be doing and you're just not? But it keeps hankering in your head, like, you know what, maybe I should lead the charge on this. I don't like something going on in my community that's affecting the children. So maybe I should lead the charge on that particular thing. So I say, if that's the case, get busy. I'm here to encourage you today to get busy doing what it is that you won't know until maybe it's all done, just how wonderful it was that you had the courage to take charge, take the lead, and do what it is in the hour that you were called to do. And I just love that for you. If you do that, please come back and tell us. If it's a year from now, because hopefully I'll still be here doing my little YouTube channel, you'll come back a year from now and say, Stacy, do you remember on March the 1st, 2025, you talked about the Feast of Purim and how we were supposed to do things for good reason, and we may not understand it, but we know in our heart that we got to do it. And then we did it, and I did it rather, and now look at me, and I just want to share that story with you, and that we can give thanks to God together, right? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that wonderful? And I just believe, even if you're just watching the replay, you didn't see this live, I think you're here for a reason. I think that the good Lord is going to reveal to you some things about what you actually should be doing. And I pray that you have the courage, like I said earlier, to step up to the plate and do that thing, whatever that thing is. Okay. So that kind of brings us to the end. We got another minute or so. And what do I want to share? Oh, I want to share something with you guys. Some books I ordered. Yes, I ordered a couple books. And let me show you these books I ordered. Oh my gosh, they're here. Sell your books. Oh, okay. Oh, I can sell books. Okay, look. This book right here, this is a tip. This is the end of this thing, but this is another midlife tip, you guys. The men who hate women and the women who love them. How interesting. Because did the king really love Vashti? Did the king really love Esther? Or was he just enthralled with her beauty? Because he was such a drunk, he probably, I don't know. Can you really be in love with somebody when you're preoccupied with your addiction? I don't know. But anyway, this is a really good book to read. Dr. Susan Forward and Joan Torres. This book saved my life because I didn't understand why I was in relationship with certain people who didn't really seem to value me and respect me. So this one again is a very good book. Men Who Hate Women and the Women Who Love Them. So I think this is very appropriate for this message, actually. And then here's my second book that I ordered that I really love this little book. I used to read this book to my kids all the time. It's The Little Red Hen. And this is about the little red hen that it says folk literature, who decided to build something. She decided to build a garden and she couldn't get no help. Like this little chickie was doing everything to get somebody to help her get this garden together because it was a community need. This is perfect. Thank you, Lord. There was a community need. And so guess what? She implored everybody to help her. And guess what? Nobody would help her. They would not help this little red hen for nothing at all. So guess what? She took matters into her own hands and said, you know what? I can't get any help here, so I'm going to help myself. I'm going to get it done. And she did. And she did. And here's the beautiful thing about this little red hen. And then after she got all the food planted, she said, this is what she said. Then we're going to go, y'all. She said, the little red hen said to the people who now wanted to grub, see all these people she invited to help, but they didn't because they were too busy doing them, I guess. And she says, but the little red hen then said, all by myself, I planted the wheat. I tended the wheat. I cut the wheat. I took the wheat to the mill to ground into flour. She did all that by herself. Bless her heart. And all by myself, I gathered the sticks. I built the fire. I mixed the cake. I mixed it all by myself. And guess what? She said, and I am going to eat it. So there, so now. So this book, I love this book because it's a courage book. It's like, do what you gotta do. If ain't nobody helping you right now, it's all good. It's all good. If nobody seems to care about what you're doing right now, do it anyway, because trust me, somebody's gonna come along eventually. I think if you pray, do the right thing for the right reason, someone's gonna come along and help you. But if they don't, you get it done and pat yourself on the back real quick, because really you're supposed to let other people give you esteem, not yourself. But you can pat yourself on the back a little bit for a job well done. I don't think that means that you can't do that. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in. What happened? Something about I am your only viewing person right now, unless the stream did not update yet. Oh, I don't know what's going on with that. I'm new with this Razor Skywalker, but thank you for tuning in. Actually, it's only 30 minutes, so I was over my time a little bit. I tend to do that. I got to be a little more cognizant of that. But oh, you do? Oh, thank you. Well, you made the live this morning. So there you go. There you go. So hi to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, figure out what it is you're supposed to do for your community, for your family, whatever it is. Figure it out and get her did. Get her done. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful week, okay? Because today is what? Sunday, the first day of the week. Yes, the first day of the week. So you have a wonderful week, and may all your dreams come true. Hey, maybe this week something will come true for you. Who knows? That would be nice. Okay, see you later. See you next Sunday. Oh, like, share, and subscribe, and invite a friend. Okay.